answer your question. What should we do? I think nowadays, with everything being volatile, everything is uncertain. Banks are uncertain. The annuities, like you were saying, the 401ks, all of that's uncertain. But I think now we have to use extra caution in everything. If you're going to invest into a investment project or a product, check that company out. It goes back like what we had said way back in one of the other shows. If you're going to do business with somebody, check them out. There are ways you can check out investment firms. You can find out what is their rating, what is their Better Business Bureau, so that if you're going to do an investment with a company or a savings plan or 401k or an annuity, you can't just go up there and say, because my friend told me about it. You want to be able to say, look, I checked them out online. They have a clean Better Business Bureau report. They have a track record of producing good numbers. Because remember when the Madoff scam was going on, he was giving out beautiful statements to the investors. And every month they was showing a profit. But what he was doing was a Ponzi scheme. He was bringing in new investors to pay the old investors. So you can't even go on the reports anymore. You can't even rely on, if you go to a company and they give you a beautiful brochure or printout, and it has all these profit margins that are looking so good. And you say, I tell you what, I'll put $5,000 in there. And then 6 months later, it crashes on the stock market, or there's a big fraud going on. But you got to look at objective organizations that don't have no invested interest. The Better Business Bureau, the Attorney General's office. Check with those agencies first, because to further answer your question, we still have to look at now. We've got to look at putting something aside for the future.
Got to.
For tomorrow.
Got to.
We can no longer live just for today. We can no longer do what our parents did. What got our parents by, our foreparents by, it ain't working today. And I think that's the best way to deal with it. You have to, when you get money or you get paid, you got to look further down the road. And people say, well, you know, my faith in the Lord. There's nothing wrong with faith, but there's a difference in faith and foolishness. The Bible even also tells us to be good stewards over what we have. So part of being a good steward, you have to look at tomorrow and save and see where you can cut corners and see where you can cut expenses and reduce your outlay, that you can be able to eat not only just for today, but for the rest of tomorrow, the next day, the next month, the next year.
And it's okay to not buy the name brand.
Oh God, yeah.
Stuff.
Oh God, yeah.
Anymore, you know, like you might have once did, because there's really, if you really look at it, it's all in the packaging.
It's in the packaging. And you brought up a very good issue. A lot of people don't realize this. I'm going to use groceries as an example. You have some people who feel like, you know, Del Monte is the best brand out there. I'm just using it as an example. Or Kraft is the best brand out there. I won't have nothing else.
Right.
What they fail to realize most of the time, the name brands make the generic version for the grocery store.
Right.
It's just all in the packaging.
It's all in the packaging.
And most of the time, except for maybe a few things, sometimes there is a little difference, a little bit, but not enough to justify the extra pay that you have to pay for.
Because there's a lot of price difference in the generic brand and the national brand.
It is.
It is quite a bit, and you can save anywhere from, you know, if you can save a quarter, 50 cents, you know, that's still a saving. And a lot of people are going to that, being savvy, being you know, conscious of that saving. And then sometimes you go in the stores and they even have a strategy. The way they place things. And you got to be, I mean, if you're interested in trying to save, and we do need to save, watch where they put things, and be careful that if they're giving you a sale on one thing, they're going to put the price on another thing. So you have to be mindful. If you're trying to really save, you got to be conscious, because these people that are in the business to make a profit, or they're very savvy, and they're very conscious on what they're planning, to do.
True. That's
You know what I'm saying? So sometimes, most of the time, when I try to go into a store, I mean, especially a grocery store, I try to go in for the sale items and try to leave out with the sale items. But I gotta sell
That's
those.
wise. That's
You,
wise.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you gotta have it in your mind. You gotta purpose it in your mind. What you do, and to try to save. I mean, like you said, every little corner.
Yes.
Just to say, because you gotta watch out for tomorrow.
You do.
You know.
You do. Especially if you have family, you have kids.
Yeah.
The people who you have, and there are families who are single parents. I mean, let's be real. No longer does the average home consist of the traditional setup of a man and a wife. It consists of a single parent, sometimes two single people living together, raising kids from different families or structures. Or I saw in the news piece where some church members had lost their home, and some of the other members had took those members in and had let them stay. I mean, that's what it's getting down to, where we're going to have to sometime pull together, where we were always individualized. Everybody had their own place. Now we're going to have to do come together and help one another, as the Bible always tells us that. I've seen it was a church out of Durham. They had several of the members had lost their job and lost their home, and the members got together and placed them with some of the members in the church. And I think, I mean, it's unusual, but it defines what church is about.
That's right, and that's what used to happen.
It used to happen
until the government or somebody came in and said, we're going to separate the church from the state, and then we're going to do this and we're going to do that. But that was it could have been the most harmful thing they could have done to the country. By doing that.
Separation of church and state.
Yeah, because we were helping one another along the way. We were sharing, taking care of one another. I even saw an advertisement in a magazine where the churches were taking care of the medical expense of one another within the congregation. Isn't that awesome?
That's beautiful. It's those things that I feel like people should be able to find in the church.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
That's awesome.
Because you look at the people that you can win over to Christ, that they can say, the church was there for me.
Exactly.
But see, like nowadays we got more horror stories than we got stories like that. Where the church turned their back on them or put them out, or there was no support. But I think we need to bring those days back. When you look at it, and I'm not that young myself, I've been around the corner a piece. I remember myself coming up as a little boy. The church was tight knit. You didn't have a family going hungry in the church. Them mothers, those sisters of the church that knew how to cook, they would, if they find out that them children ain't eating, they would give you a bag of food. Put it in your, they bring it by. Cakes, and you don't find it no more. You don't find it no more. Of course, a lot of people don't cook no more either. But that's what used to happen in the church. But it doesn't happen no more.
And I remember on last Sunday night, I was looking at one of the ministers on the TV. Awesome, powerful minister. I can't even remember. I wish I could call his name, and I wish I could call the city. But he went to sleep. He was thinking that he was in a sleep or he was in a daze. I don't know what he was in. But he said the Spirit of the Lord came to him, and the Lord began to minister to him about some things that needed to take place, in his church, in his community. He began to see all the poverty that was going on, all the unemployment that was going on, and data this and data that. And his church was a mega church. And it still is a mega church.
Wow.
They have big things going on in their churches, things that you just almost unimaginable. And the Lord began to show him the things of the word that was going on, and right on even in his congregation. And he began to write things. When he came out of it, he began to write all the stuff that the Lord was showing him, was telling him, was just feeling, he and his wife. And so he made a vow to his people that what his church was going to do. they were going to make sure as much as they possibly could that nobody in that church went hungry. That nobody, that somebody that really, really, really needed a job, the church was going to employ them. If they weren't going to employ, they were going to make sure that they got a job. They were going to be whatever they needed to be
for the people.
Yeah, for the people in the church.
Wow.
And not only that, they were going to go outside the church too, do outreach as well. And I said to myself, that was an awesome. He was so passionate about it because he saw the unfairness of what was going on in the world. You know what I'm saying? And how people were suffering. And they had the opportunity, if people didn't have cars and didn't have a way to get to work, back and forth to work, that their church was going to make sure that they had transportation, to go. And that's an awesome mission for him to take on for his church.
It is.
You know what I'm saying?
And it's beautiful because there's some mega churches that don't do that. They don't do that. It's all about buying the tapes and the CDs of the pastor and paying your fees for the registration of the conference and all of that. But there's so many of those members in that church that they can't afford that. But the church may be so large nobody knows, and then sometimes the members are embarrassed. They don't want nobody to know. So that's awesome.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
That's needed.
Oh my God.
I wish sometimes, sometimes I think about it. I said, if I had the power, another child would never go to bed hungry. If I could just flip a switch, nobody would go to bed hungry. Nobody would be sleeping on the street under a bridge. Nobody would be sick and don't even know they're in the world. I don't even know if I would have death. I don't know, but life never tells us the whens or why. Tragedies that we've seen just in the last year, if I could, it wouldn't have happened. The little kids in Newtown, the random acts of violence for no reason. We had a case a few years ago. Just because the man and the wife got in an argument, he goes to her job at a nursing home and kills senior citizens. That had nothing to do with that argument, nothing to do with him and his wife. They had worked all their life. That was somebody's grandmother, somebody's mother. And this, man goes in there and shoots up everybody because she was going to leave him. And we're living in a time now where people want to punish everybody else for what they dealing with. I've never seen nothing like it. And then then once they go to court, I was crazy, mental. They done planned everything out, done bought the bullets, but yet then they crazy. Now they crazy.
Now they crazy.
They mental insanity.
And so they want us to have the courts to have
mercy on them, and they didn't have mercy on somebody else's life.
Right.
So if I could, I'd reverse all of that, all of those things. This would be heaven on earth. That we would get a test drive. Since the streets are paved with gold, with the gold line down the middle, let's not have the rest of it. So if I could, I would. But unfortunately, we see it all. We don't even have to look on the news. It's in our community. And some are so proud they won't let you know, but it's in our community. Sometimes the person abruptly moves out. Most times they've been kicked out. It's in our community. We see it. We may not want to see it, but we see it.
And another thing is you were saying about people being kicked out. I even read on the news, saw on the news the other day where doing a big foreclosure that the government had done, or not necessarily the government, I think it might have been a bank, as a matter of fact, had done a great big foreclosure. Come to find out that they foreclosed on people that were current. They were current. They were current in their housing, and actually and these were military people that they foreclosed on. Their property owned. And I said, all kinds of things are going on. Can you imagine how that was when they did an investigation on it? and an audit on it, and come to find out these people, they had been put out their house and everything. They just had to go. How unfair, unfortunate things happen to these people, but hey, it's
Could you imagine being put out of your home
mm-hmm.
and your current,
Yeah.
only to find out it was a
Mm-hmm.
mistake?
It was a mistake. Mm-hmm.
It make you wonder, could you hold on to your religion?
Yeah,
Or
that's
would you
right.
have to anoint yourself, Lord,
That's
please,
right. There you go.
would you?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a hurtful thing to be put out of a place that you live in
Mm-hmm.
just because you can't afford it and you did make the payment.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine for a moment being put out wrongly, and you pay. You may even have the receipts,
Yeah.
and because the sheriff has a court order to evict you, he don't
Isn't
want to
that
hear that.
something?
He don't want to hear
He
that.
don't want to hear that.
He's got a court order.
That's right.
The judge or whoever, the magistrate, has given him an order. Well,
Mm-hmm.
sir, ma'am, you're gonna have to leave.
You have to leave.
And you say, well, hold up, I got my because we don't know what happened as far as the details.
Exactly.
That
Could have been a mistake somewhere down the
yeah,
line.
yeah.
Anything could have happened.
Mm-hmm.
But he
He
doesn't
got
get
that
involved
order.
with that. He just got a court order.
And when they come to you like that, it's cut and dry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Unless they can, if you can call the bank and they can verify right then and there, they may do a reprieve. But because he has that order,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't go, you in contempt.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's one of those things where the trying of your faith.
Yes.
Could you? How could you? You know, I don't know what would be easy to say. Well, blessed be the name of God. I'm blessed of the Lord, highly favored. And they're escorting you out of your house.
Yeah.
That's filled with the memories that you put in there. So it's something to think about.
Mm-hmm. But it's happening in our economy today. Um, um, it's just unfortunate also. That's one of the things why we have to plan and plan wisely. Like you said, but some things are done mistakenly, but we have to be rest assured that we do need to do financial planning in our life in the natural.
Mm-hmm.
To try to circumvent some of the things that do happen to us in the natural.
So true. So true.
And one thing that we do, our eyes are the gateway to a lot of trouble. We see a lot of things that we want.
Oh God. You better preach.
And we just go out and we just buy those things and they're over our head, and then we got to try to figure out how we're going to pay for them, and then sometimes the job runs out, and all that. And we just thank God we heard on the radio this morning that MetLife is coming to North Carolina, coming to your area.
That's it.
Yeah, with jobs.
Jobs. And they're going
but they're closing down from another area now.
Exactly.
How's that going to do? Like you said.
There's
what
a winner, there's a winner, and there's a loser.
There you go.
Because they were saying last night there would be IT jobs, a lot of them, but they would be paying an average of $100,000 a year. So you imagine the person that's sitting there with a resume and been drawing unemployment or looking for a job. Yeah. That's going to be a big winner. They're going to win. Yeah. But then they're going to be closing.
Where they're coming from, that's right.
So it's one of those things. And I know if I was one of those people that was an IT specialist that was good with web design. I know they said on the news last night something about web. They're looking for web design.
Exactly.
IT, intellectual, information. Well, and I'll be looking at if I get that job. Hey, knowing me like I know me, I'm looking for a new car.
Yeah. You don't spend your money already.
My money's already, the Jag, the Bentley, the Mercedes is already ordered.
See there? Now you're supposed to be trying to renew and build.
I'm ready.
Going out there buying a car.
There you go. I'm ready to restore my collection of cars. There's a as you were talking, I was thinking about there's a station that I watch. It's called the Wealth Channel, and they show how you can order your private jet. And they do the floor plan. You can order your Bentley, and I mean you're talking about could you imagine paying $250,000 for a car?
No.
Bentley,
no.
A Maybach, a Mercedes, a bulletproof BMW. There's one show they show how if I want to order a new town car, a new Jag or a Benz, they sit down with me, go through the specifications of what I want in it, and bulletproof it. They strip it down, take everything out that's from the factory, go in and reinforce the plate. The glass is about so thick. I've got now a $200,000 car that is bulletproof. So when I drive When I arrive here, I've driven with the same protection as the president has, or similar to. Mm-hmm. Not quite probably as in
But
depth.
Minister Darrell, why would you need a bulletproof car? That's what I want to know.
That's a good question.
Why would you need a bulletproof?
Well, with what I hear on the news, you know,
you're gonna have to get out of it.
You gotta get out of it, but I could pull in the back, So, but I will say this to answer your question. I remember it reminds me when I was about 17 years old, and my family asked me that same question when I kept telling them I want a Lincoln Town car. And here I was, 17 years old, about to graduate high school. All my other classmates and friends were wanting sports cars. Here I am, 17 years old, this big old granddaddy type luxury car. So they said, well, what do you need with a town car? Well, girl, what do you need with a big old town car? You don't have any kids. But what they didn't realize, I had driven one. I had test drove one. Mm-hmm. And I saw all the features that the car had, that it had a lot of stuff the average car don't have. So to answer the question, a lot of times when you look at stuff like that, people buying cars that's $200,000. Well, one thing, the car is hand built, like a Maserati, mm-hmm. a Aston Martin. Now the Jags and Benz are not hand built, but it's a prestigious type, quote unquote. Okay. So to answer that question, the person that like myself, they want one, or mm-hmm. that's what they plan to get, or they have the money to get. The idea of knowing you have something everybody else don't have. Okay. It's just like salvation. Okay. The person will say, why would you want to be saved? Well, you say, knowing I have that peace, that era of salvation that the sinner don't have.
Okay.
So it's the same thing. It's that privilege, being in that privilege class. Mm-hmm. So I know that some of my fellow car lovers out there that can attest to what I'm talking about. Their wife may ask them, why you always cleaning that car all the time? Mm-hmm. I used to hear some of the sisters say, he out there cleaning that car like he love that car more than he love me. But it's a thing of that car is like, that's yours. And one, like I told one of the members one time, we had the biggest laugh about it. We were me, her, and her husband, and one of the other members, we were on our way to dinner. And she asked me, she said, what make men so crazy about cars? I don't get it. It's just a car. I said, Sister Moore, I said, it's like this. Unlike a child, unlike a dog, unlike a human being or a spouse, a car, and you think about this, a car is one of those rare few things that does completely what you tell it to do without question. If you hit the brakes, it stops.
Yeah, that's right.
You crank it up, and you leave it, and you sit it out there till I get through talking. It ain't going nowhere. Mm-hmm. It don't get an attitude with you. As long as you take care of it and keep it serviced, and when you polish it up and park it somewhere with the wheel turned to the side, mm-hmm. somebody say, that's my girl's town car right there.
Okay.
I've even sometimes been in a restaurant, I seen a guy walk by my car after I got it clean, and he looking in the window, looking at it, how clean it is. That right there just make you, it's mm-hmm. like, that's mine. Mm-hmm. Look at it. People that mine, I'm not even in it. So it's one of those things that it's one of the most loyal things you'll ever own while you're on the earth. So that's probably why you see guys, even when we get in our middle-age crisis, we'll go out there and buy a Mustang like we're a teenager. Mm-hmm. We're trying to recoup that lost youth, mm-hmm. so to speak. Guys are 50 years old, he's driving a Corvette. Okay. He don't need no Corvette. What is he going to do with a Stingray Corvette at almost 60 years old? Okay. But it does two things. Mm-hmm. For some men, it boosts their ego. Okay. For some men, it's the thing that they can control. It's the one thing that does, if he sit it out there, it stays there till he gets there. Mm-hmm. It does what he tells him to do. For some, it makes them feel in a privileged class. You got a car that everybody else don't have. Or like you got a model that you ordered. It's a limited